Oh, I had something I wanted us to start on today.
Well, let me start out here, huh?
Yeah, go ahead.
So back on the podcast here with Aaron Tarr. Seen him on a couple podcasts in the past, but we wanted to do kind of him as the guest this week. He was on the first ever podcast too, so full circle. All right, Aaron, why don't you introduce yourself a little bit more?
2018.
Yeah. That's how long this podcast has been going on for.
Yeah, but then there's
so please listen.
It doesn't really count because there's like a 5-year hiatus in the middle of all that.
Why don't you just introduce yourself, dude? I'm like the Howard Stern of podcasts, and you just shit all over it.
Yeah, I'm Aaron. I don't know. It's really
Joseph.
Bizarre to introduce yourself. That's why people introduce the like. When somebody speaks at
oh my God, shut up. This is Aaron Joseph Tarr. He coached as a longtime head coach. This is Aaron Tarr, longtime head coach at Marshall High School, which is in the area. Formerly the Mount St. Mary's hitting coach for the last couple years. Formerly at Coppin State and Georgetown as well. Has been around for a long time, been coaching at a lot of different levels for a long time.
Yeah.
What was your first coaching job?
First coaching job, Yorktown JV, 2005.
2005. Okay.
I did JV at Yorktown 2000. No, it would have been 2006. Sorry.
So looking back at your first job and coming out, you started off as a JV coach and you just resigned yesterday from being a college coach. How has your coaching journey shaped you as a person?
As a person, I mean, it like because those are ostensibly the jobs I've been taking, like it shapes what life looks like, but at the same time, It's not like, I don't think...
You don't learn anything along that way?
No, you learn tons about coaching, and you learn, I'm sure there's some type of like reflexive process where I've learned more about my personal values as a result of coaching, but it's always seemed to me like the coaching values came from what my personal values were and worked that direction. Like
gotcha.
there's things, but there are definitely...
What do you think helped shape those personal values that then helped shape you as a coach?
Well, that would have been my experience as a player with my dad as my coach. And then like, even when
was
he
that a good experience or a bad experience?
No, it's positive.
Positive?
I think he was not he taught me more how to be a coach than he taught me how to be a player. Like in many of the lessons he was teaching me as a player were good player lessons, but I didn't process them that way at the time, and he didn't deliver them in a way that made it where it was like, you got to do this. Like it was none of that. Like it was more drive home from the game, think reflexively about different decisions that could have been made, all that kind of thing.
Do you think that was unintentional or intentional by you?
100% intentional. 100% intentional, and that, if anything, has shaped the way that I do anything, coach or otherwise. It's probably that experience drawn out over like 10 years that like I just am not. I don't really ever. He was always more likely to try to teach me how to do something slightly after the fact than in the moment, because he felt like that was always a much more effective way of getting the message across when you are unemotional about something.
Yeah.
And to this day, I'm not capable really of operating in any other way, like in an environment where you need to like I can give immediate feedback, but I can't give immediate feedback, like criticism about certain things that I think can't be absorbed in the moment. Right? Like I can give, if you're like in a cage or something like that, you can give immediate feedback. That's not a problem. But in a game context, like I'm never going to be the person ever that is able to or willing to, I don't know which one it is because I've seen people do it really effectively both ways, in the midst of a game, direct traffic, because it doesn't take very quickly. To nobody. So I just don't do it. But there are guys that do give a lot of information rapidly, and players that can take on that information rapidly. It's just not my It's just not the way that I do it.
Would you say you kind of let the players play? And then...
you let them play, but then you can discuss things after moments have passed.
Sure.
But
there's times to play, there's times to coach, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah, for sure.
Did your dad play college baseball?
No.
Played high school baseball.
Played high school baseball.
No. He's from this area as well?
No. He's from Erie, Pennsylvania.
Oh, okay.
Him and his buddy tried out for the Pirates when they were 17 or 18.
How'd that go?
I don't know. I think it went well actually for the buddy because he was I remember meeting him 20 years, maybe longer, 25 years ago, and he was his kid played at Navy actually.
Oh.
Who was about my age. But he was a 6'2", 6'3", tall, gangly lefty.
Wow.
Not the kid, the dad that my dad tried out with the Pirates with. I think it went well for Jack Norton. I don't know how well it went for Pat Tarr. But that's okay. It's okay. It didn't matter.
Pat Tarr didn't make the team?
No, I think the closest he got to the Pirates was that he...
Bought tickets?
Him and Grandpa went to the 1960 series, the Mazeroski home run series, but didn't see the Mazeroski home run game. They saw one of the 3 games in which the Yankees absolutely pummeled the crap out of the Pirates, because it was apparently 4 games where the Pirates won by 1 run, and 3 games where the Yankees won by 10.
Gotcha.
So
talking about kind of your different coaching stuff. To talk about another kind of coaching endeavor you went on, when did you start the cadets? So you're at JV Yorktown, and then you went right to Marshall?
I went JV Yorktown 06, 07, took the year off in 08, went back in 09, went to Marshall in 2010, and then in the second year of Marshall starting in 2011 when I was an assistant coach. Those are assistant varsity coach years. In 2011, I started the cadets as a Marshall, as a way of keeping the Marshall kids at Marshall, because we didn't at the time, and I think it's a little bit less, I know it's a lot less this way now, but at the time Marshall was this is right before they rebuilt the school and added on and changed the field and all this stuff. They used to lose lots of kids to private school and Madison and all sorts of different stuff. So the most effective way of keeping guys at the school was to have a team and essentially recruit them. And I made sure with the athletic director, I was hey, I know you can't recruit guys to high school, but can you recruit players that are districted for you? And he was yeah, you go recruit the hell out of them. Yeah. So that's
how cadets kind of came about.
Yeah. So the first teams that I had were all all cadets. They were all Marshall kids, and they didn't all end up playing baseball. They all ended up going to Marshall, and then some of them played basketball, some of them played golf, some of them
that's what happens,
all
right?
over the place.
Sometimes guys make decisions to play other sports.
Yeah, it was all right.
But okay, so
they all got there. That was the point.
For sure. You've had a lot of success. There's been a lot of cadet players that have played at a high level. I know the other day you were writing some of those names down.
Yeah, there's it's weird because it's not going to be the last stop before you go to college, right? That's not what it's intended to do. It's never been that way. It's more I think
it's not a showcase team. It never really has been a showcase team. Now cadets is a lot more focused on player development, right?
Yeah, it's always been that way.
Travel teams serve different purposes at times, right?
Even when it was a Marshall theater team, we were all the template was to take kids who were, and basically do chopped up versions of the varsity practice.
No, for sure.
So Joe McDonald was the varsity coach at that time. I'd take his practice structure, I'd flip it around, and I'd downsize it.
The area I'm from, that's how the football program is set up.
I think football programs are like that.
We started running the same offense when you're 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 playing tackle football. Practices would run the same way all the way from 6 to 18. And the head coach of the high school, we call our high school mascot was a cougar. They're called Little Cougs, and it's the same for my high school. It's the same for all the other high schools in our district. You played same colors, same uniforms, all the way up. You're in the same offense.
You were a Little Coug?
Yeah.
You were a Little
I started playing football until I was like 11, but my brother played when he was like 6.
Yeah.
Tackle football.
Wow.
And that's how they found a lot of success with the football program, and that's kind of the first time I'd seen that. I mean, talking early 2000s, that's what they were doing, and still the same head coach there, to my knowledge, almost 30 years later.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I know in like the South, that's super common. Like my cousins, so I guess my second cousin, like my cousin's kid, was like one of the big things in the family was like when he was trying out for quarterback of like their 6th grade team.
Yeah,
and it was like a super big deal, and like not just with his like parents and stuff, but like in that area.
Dude.
And you're like,
same way for us. The dude who played quarterback for us when we were 12 played quarterback when we were and won a state championship.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's like
that's how you have to do that, I think, in order to get a competitive edge. And I mean, we're talking Seattle. It's not like it's a football hotbed or anything like the South or something, but I think that's how you get an edge. And kind of what you're talking about with cadets is kind of the same thing you do. Is you try to start out and kind of feed your program a little bit.
I think I think from a developmental standpoint, it just works a little bit different in baseball because in football, like you can work yourself into being like a good player even if you're not the most like physically gifted person on the planet, but it's very difficult. Like you have got to meet athletic requirements at whatever position it is,
for sure.
Right? And in baseball, there's obviously there's more flexibility in like the build of skill.
You don't see
and
too
hard
many
work to make up for the reality that you weren't as naturally gifted as like.
And in football, basketball, you don't see too many guys in basketball who are 5'11". You don't see too many guys in football who are 5'8". You know what I mean?
Right. And in baseball, you're gonna have a little bit more variation because of the skill element of it. It's still like way easier for people of like certain. Like 6'2", 6'3", like that's kind of what you want to be. But like at the same time, it's
you look up and down a major league roster. There's not too many guys that weigh under 210, 220.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Not too many guys that, Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing is that baseball's got the structure to like, and I think this is actually a weird positive thing about the last couple of years of college baseball in particular. It's now that there are structures in place to constantly reward guys for production. Like so here's a good example. Like I went to Hamilton out of high school in 1998, so that is like, D3 school in the NESCAC, right? Mm-hmm. And then I set the single season walk record my freshman year. I'm not even sure it still exists in the books. I think it got beat like 3 years later, and that's still like 25 years ago. So. But the
we know about that.
Yeah, but the reality is like I don't think I would have, but if somebody goes to D3 and has like a ton of success as a freshman, they're going to have the pathway for upward mobility. Mm-hmm. And in particular, like in certain D3 conferences, like it's very clear that success in that conference correlates very well with just jumping to like a pretty high-level D1 team and being, like, really freaking good. Like, UVA's had some guys that absolutely killed it for them the last couple of years that played for Salisbury. And College of Charleston had a guy this last year that played for Lynchburg. I can't say his last name, but just guys, like, making those jumps all the time. UNC.
Well, I think in baseball, especially on the pitching side, there's certain characteristics you can look for that are going to get hitters out at any level.
No doubt.
And I think that's what you see the best major league teams doing. We talked about this yesterday. The Dodgers having a lot of biomechanical reports with guys and different pitch shapes and stuff like that. It's pretty easy to see a guy and how his fastball characteristics and understand that that's going to get major league hitters out because of those characteristics, right?
Yeah.
You're looking at Mason Miller today. The characteristics on that fastball are going to play. He was a Division II guy or a Division III guy, right? Or something like that.
Yeah, Waynesburg.
And I think he's gotten better since his time in college,
yeah, I mean,
too.
I don't know if he threw 100.
You know that the fastball characteristics are going to get hitters out no matter what the level is.
Right.
I think that's why you look at really good fastballs in the major leagues, like a Cole Reagan left-handed fastball. It has so much induced vertical, it rides so much through the zone. You just know that's going to get guys out. You know that fastball is going to play, no matter if it's in the major leagues, AAA, et cetera, to some extent, right? And I think that's why in baseball you can see guys at the college level make some of those jumps too, because if you get some of those characteristics, you know it's going to transfer.
Yes, I think some of it's also just to like, if you're putting together a roster of players that's trying to win at the Division I level, and you look at rosters that are, it's easier to, the closer somebody has been to producing at the level that you're at,
yep,
the easier it is to take a risk on that person, right?
And you were the recruiting coordinator
per year, yeah.
When you look at that, what you just said, right? It's like, do I take a high school senior who's produced, or do I take a Division II guy who's produced? The Division II is closer to Division I level. You think that guy's going to produce more at a college level.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's what the transfer portal has done a little bit. Right?
Yeah, I think at all three of the colleges that I was at, like, the collective mindset was to look at that as not like necessarily preferable to like a guy coming with some college credentials as preferable to a high school kid, but certainly like you're not even looking at them for the same time frame, right? Because a college to college transfer is a guy who's already like you're projecting that person to be on the field, whereas a high school player that you're recruiting, you're thinking that there's got to be a pathway for them to be successful for you, but you're not necessarily expecting that out of them as a freshman. Mm-hmm. And there's always like a guy or two that you think are going to be like good as freshmen, or that you need to take a high level of interest in making sure that they're set up for success. And mm-hmm. It's not like you're trying to set up everybody for success, but you always have one or two guys where their pathway is going to get on the field is going to be a little bit easier because the talent level and the maturity are high.
You think they're going to make an impact.
Yeah.
And that's your job as a coach and a guy who recruits guys is there's always going to be a pecking order. There's always going to be a list of who you think, because that's part of your job. Right?
Yeah, no doubt.
I mean, I think some of that too, when you get it right, it helps you as the coach. Would you agree with that?
Ask the question again.
When you go and recruit a guy and you kind of, you have your board and you have, you're kind of ranking guys out. If you, as the recruiting coordinator, like put your name on this guy and he succeeds, that helps out your personal resume. Would you agree?
Yeah, I would say in some of my experiences, it was like, this is my guy, this is your guy. Like it worked more towards like personal credibility. I would say, at least at Mount, it was much more of a collective effort in everything. And that's one of the things I actually really liked about it. It's like anything that's a collective effort there's so much value to it, and then there's also some things that get infuriating about it at times. Yeah. Like because you have people that you're sharing decision-making power with. And every person on the planet at one point wants to say, like, no, this is the guy I want, let's go.
Sure.
Right? And be the decision maker. And it's not, but at Mount, each guy had a lot of flexibility to say their piece. And honestly, Coach put a lot of trust in us to make the right decisions on those things. But at the end of the day, the effort was more collective than it was individual. So like we would play like fun games sometimes where it's like this is my guy, this is your guy, whatever, you love this kid, blah blah blah, all that kind of thing. But like in the end, the ideology was that they were our guys.
Sure.
Because it gets dangerous if you get into the my guy, your guy thing when they get to the team that can show up between coaches that are jockeying for their guys.
And you've been in other situations where
that was the case.
And I think that's a good kind of thing that I think some players who are in the recruiting process don't understand some of those factors when it comes to some of these colleges are like that. Some colleges aren't like that. I mean, that's just the reality of the situation. Sometimes at the end of the day, it's a lot more of a business than people want to realize.
Yeah, and the biggest thing is it's just not a predictable thing. Everybody's going to be.
I think everyone has a hope that a college coaching staff is going to be of a higher standard of a high school coaching staff or their travel ball coaching staff. That's not always the case.
Yeah,
because ego gets involved. Coaches are in certain positions not based on their ability to coach.
It's also just a very different environment.
Sure.
I've coached in showcase baseball too. Showcase baseball is can be infuriating because you're not the one you're trying to get guys recruited and you're not the one who gets to make the decisions, so you can give opinions but people don't have to listen to you, all that kind of thing. But you don't tend to get held accountable for that as much.
On the showcase side?
On the showcase side. And so the showcase side, for most coaches, I think, and maybe not all, every situation is very different, every personal relationship is very different, but it's just a very different environment than college coaching. College coaching, you make bad decisions, you lose games or waste money or do things like that, right? And then you lose games and have
lose money, you lose
bad
job.
Players that are bad character guys then lose job, right? Then no feedback. There's the trickle down effect of all that stuff is way worse than it is in showcase ball, where you're these people were kind of a pain in the butt this year. I just want to coach next year and not get my $2,000 stipend.
Yeah.
And whatever. Most people kind of be okay with that. Not that anybody intentionally tries to do a bad job. I just mean it's a very different environment. So I always found it a lot easier to be, it's very easy to be well liked as a 15U coach in certain contexts.
Sure.
But because there's just not as much.
Well, I think that kind of goes back to what I said about it being a business at the college level.
No doubt.
I mean, at 15U, you can play everybody. Everyone can get some at-bats. Everyone can do all this. When you're out there in conference play, I mean, especially at a school like the Mount, when you're in conference play, you're trying to win as many games as you can. You're trying to make it to a conference championship. I mean, you go to a regional, you go to a super regional, that can be transformative for a school like the Mount or a middle size of Division I. You know what I mean?
Let's talk about the 2021 Coppin State team that you guys were both part of. Let's start beginning of the year. You're new at the program. It's your second year, right, at Coppin State?
Tread lightly, son.
Yeah, I'm not gonna.
I'm not saying you got to call people out. Just to talk about.
I think technically that was my third year at Coppin.
Okay.
Because of COVID.
Cool.
So I think that's what made it kind of an interesting.
Yeah, talk about
season.
You coming into the program. What you guys thought?
I remember it was a weird start, because the March before in 2020 we had played 8 games, and then we got sent home because of COVID, right? So in 2021...
And you guys actually did pretty well in those 8 games, didn't you?
Yeah.
You guys, you beat Lehigh, beat Richmond.
The big one was Richmond.
Kind of cruising a little bit.
The big one was Richmond. They just played Georgia, who's the number 1 team in the country that year, had a 3-game set, and they blew 2 leads against them with 1 or 2 outs in the 9th.
Right.
I remember that game because I felt kind of bad because the Richmond closer at the time came in. He had blown 2 games against Georgia, and then came in against us on a Wednesday to try to get right a little bit, and we put an 8 spot on him. Yeah, we were doing pretty well, but then kind of COVID, and then it kind of got shut down, so we had to go home. Came back for that 21 season. I knew that was going to be my last year. I think my teammates knew that. Hadn't maybe said that to Coach Reed quite yet at that point.
I don't know, honestly.
I kind of saw that season as the program for Coppin was on the rise. Coppin had been a very bad program, 5, 6, 7, 8 years before that. I thought
they had
it was
a good
going to be
year in 18.
Yeah, the year before I got there. And the
Yeah.
year I got there was another really good year. I think we won more games than any team had ever won. I think we won like close to 30, 35 games, something like that. That last year, I thought that team was going to be really, really good the next year.
Yeah, so did I.
And then they went to a regional that next year.
Yeah.
I think that year for me, I was just really trying to influence the younger guys to, one, stay, and two, how can I help them get better? I think we were missing some. I think what Tarr kind of brought to the table is the coaching staff was a little light, so it was good to kind of get him on board. I think his role as a coach grew more and more on that coaching staff. Coach Reed was a little bit more hands off when it came to practice stuff, and then Coach Greeley was very organized, and I think he did a good job organizing practice. But I think Tarr brought a lot of substance to practice. Is that a good way of saying it?
Yeah, I mean, but the nice thing was like it was like everybody's doing like online classes that year, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because and the only people who are on campus at Coppin are the athletes, so it was like we were able to do.
I thought that team got a lot better and it set them up for a lot of success the following
they ended
year.
up being. It was a lot of freshmen that were really talented.
Yeah.
But like,
I mean, I had a good personal year, but we didn't really win a whole lot. I think that year we only won one game where I didn't have more than 4 RPIs in a game or something like that.
we ended up being like top 25 in the nation, and like I think like top 10 in the nation in on base percentage and.
We hit pretty well. I mean,
the offense was
we got a little
really
banged
strong.
up pitching, walked too many guys, but I think that next year they turned over the coaching staff a little bit more too. But I think you saw some of those guys throw a lot more strikes. But I could see it. I think you could see it, right, with that.
Yeah, I mean Rashad was a freshman and he dinged his knee in playing basketball in the wintertime, and
I think Hamburg was banged up too. I thought he had a lot on the mound, and he ended up hitting really well too. I think Welly hit well. He was banged up half that season too.
Yeah, dude.
The hamstring. Marcos tore his ACL. He was super talented. I think he's still playing independent baseball. Rashad's at UCLA.
I forgot about Marcos entirely. Actually.
Marcos,
that guy was awesome.
Great player from Texas. Jordan, I think, just wrapped up at Gonzaga. I mean, there's some really talented guys on that team. I think.
Yeah, Rashad was at UCLA.
He's at UCLA this last year. I mean, Timmy threw a lot of innings for that team. He just wrapped up.
Where did Nichols go?
I think the same place Timmy did in Louisiana, Division II.
He did?
I believe so.
I thought he went to a D1 school.
Is that a Tyler, right?
Huh?
Little guy, Tyler?
Yeah.
Timmy's boy? Yeah, I think they both went. I mean, you saw that, I mean...
but those guys were all freshmen.
Mike Racine was on that team. He just wrapped up at Hofstra. I mean, there's some really talented guys on that. Our pitching kind of let us down that year, but at the same time, the pitching staff was very young.
It was like a transition year because it was like you and Ray, right? And if we had Marcos not injured, that would have kind of
that would have been Marcos' last year though, and then he was able to play in a regional the next year, and I think that helped him get some professional opportunities. I believe he's still playing.
Yeah,
it was also a bit transitional too because the coaching staff was kind of turning over, and in the weight room we had some turnover in staff that I think we were pretty close with our strength coach, and he had moved on. So I don't know. I think it was just a bit more of a transitional period. I think Tarr really helped with that transition. I think a lot of the guys would 100% agree with me on that. I still talked to a couple of them, and they still talk very highly of Aaron. So it was a transitional year, and
I mean. Yeah, I think all that stuff is right. Personally, I got to do a lot of constructing not the offense as a whole, because
I think you talked
Coach Reed had an enormous amount of stuff that he wanted. He had things that he wanted an offense to do, but he allowed me to come up with a pathway to do those things, and that's like.
And I think
it worked great.
I enjoyed my time at Coppin. I think you've seen that since that regional. You've seen that roster turn over. First off, you see a lot of college rosters turn over a ton. That roster has turned over more so than I think the average roster turns over.
Yeah.
And I don't know what's going on there. I don't know. the only person I know on the coaching staff that's still there that was there when I was there is Coach Reed. I enjoyed my time. I urge guys to stay. Because the grass isn't always greener on the other side. I think a lot of guys that I played with that transferred, you saw some guys have some great, some high success going to UCLA, going to Gonzaga, going to bigger programs. You saw a lot of guys not have success and were out of baseball in a couple of years after they tried to transfer away because of things they didn't like. Look, man, you're not going to like certain things about any situation. No situation's perfect. I urge guys to stay. The guys who did stay played in regional, and then a lot of the guys who transferred after that regional were out of baseball shortly after transferring. So, I think you saw the roster last year turn over a ton too. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's. You
saw the coaching staff turn over a ton too. So
yeah, we like
it's a small Division I school. You don't have a lot of the perks. People get it trumped up in their head that it's going to be this great thing, and I think that just goes to show there's a lot of great baseball and there's a lot of bad baseball at the Division I level, Division II, Division III, NAIA. You know what I mean? So I always urge guys to go where they're going to play and not get so caught up in the label of it.
I think guys always feel like no matter what D1 school they go to, if they go D1, that's why would anybody come up with the D1 or bust thing? And the reason people think that is because they think that if they go to that level, it validates them in terms of how good of a player they are. And then suddenly when they're at that level, they're going to be like, damn, I made it. And it just doesn't feel like that. Like, it may feel like that for a day, but it's not going to I'm sure that there are environments where you're conscious of that a little bit more. But at anywhere outside of probably the SEC and and the ACC, it's just going to be a place that you are, right? So one of the things at Coppin, but this was common at all three of my stops, is that guys would complain about the things that we didn't have, as if those things.
I went to a junior college, man.
That's why I respect the JUCO guys, because they don't ever say that crap. They've already seen the bottom of the baseball existence, right?
And there's some junior colleges that are really, really nice and that are closer to the top of the baseball existence.
And even
the Spokane Community College, that was the worst college field I'd ever seen.
But that's what I mean. So even if you play a,
they've won that conference a couple times. They got a lot.
They're not a bad team. It's just their facilities.
I knew their pitching coach. I played with him in my junior college. He's now with the Astros. Ryan Eisler. He was a pitching coach at Spokane.
But that's what I mean. Okay, you play at Chipola or you play at San Jac, right? You play at one of those places that are factories. You're still going to play some teams where, go to some fields where you're like, dude, this is rough.
I remember playing
you will have seen what that looks like.
Bro, for my first year at my junior college, Pendleton, Oregon. Mm-hmm. Pendleton, Oregon, the community college there. Their field's next to the state prison.
Yeah.
There's the field, parking lot, the yard. And you got all these prisoners who are lining up watching us play. That is what I've been to. So coming out here, man, I would have played anywhere, I was on the opposite end. I think the only reason I have a college degree is because someone wanted me to play baseball. It wasn't the other way around. It wasn't, I was looking for the school. I would have gone anywhere. And I liked my experience at Coppin. Did we travel everywhere in style? Did we do all? No, but we had decent meal money. When it was super long, we got on a pretty nice charter bus.
Yep.
We flew a couple times my first year there. We went to the conference championship. We stayed in nice hotels. We ate okay food. Reed wasn't stingy with the meal money.
No.
He had a ton of snacks on the bus.
No,
was our practice places always perfect? No. Did sometimes we practice? Dude, one year it was so cold outside. Reed wanted us to practice. We went over to a park, Druid Park, and practiced.
Oh yeah.
And played an inter squad at a park because no one would let us on a field. Reed was like, I don't care. We're going to a park. That's something I always kind of respected about Reed. Is he always tried to make it work. Now, when we're at the park, is he making lineup decisions about the first weekend when we're trying to take hops off of molehills? Yes, he was. He was. Was that the right decision? Would I have done it that way? No. But We always got out there. I mean, we always, it's 120 degrees or 20 degrees.
Yeah.
Reed was always getting out there, man.
He rolled us out to Druid Park.
Were you there for that?
I didn't actually go. I wasn't there when you actually practiced it. We practiced at a park out in like where was that place? Like out.
That was a field out by Towson.
I know what Druid Park.
That was a field.
I know what Druid Park
Druid
is.
Park
though,
is where the zoo is in Baltimore.
Because they had me go scout it one time to see if it was playable in that same sort of context.
Throw down bases in a pop-up net behind home. Swear to God.
Yep. And
Division 1.
But this is the thing though. 20 years ago, that is where Coppin played their home games.
No.
You know, I swear to God,
Druid Park. Yes, that's an actual baseball field. There's an actual baseball field at Druid Park that it's all messed up now. It used to be a little bit nicer. We threw down bases in the middle of a grass field at the park. This wasn't a baseball field.
Oh, yeah.
This was like a grass park field.
Why didn't you just do that on the turf field?
We did later on.
But you wanted something off of like dirt.
We were worried because lefties, like if you go out, the PEC is like 250 down right field. So he didn't want to break it. We did do that towards the end, where he got a little bit more bold.
Yeah.
He did that. He started winning more games, and Reed stopped caring caring, but he had a little bit more carte blanche to do what he wanted.
Right.
So Justin Banks put one off the PEC one time in an inter-squad game.
Yeah.
On the turf field. And a lot of guys didn't like that. We had a football field in the middle of campus, super nice.
Dude.
Didn't have a football team. That was our practice field most of the time. We got a lot of stuff done, and the fact that we were able to, a lot of guys look at that, they're like, oh, they kind of scoff at that. It's like, that's a turf field. You can practice rain or shine.
Dude,
all the time. Right? Dude, it was 100 feet away from where all of us lived, right next to the cafeteria.
From a development standpoint,
perfect.
It's freaking awesome.
We'd be out there first day you get back to campus. Everyone goes to the turf field. We play catch, hit ground balls. I mean, before coaches are out there, before they're allowed to be.
Pitchers would be out there in small groups at like 10 a.m.
It's 100 feet away from our weight room. It's 50 feet away from the cafeteria, and it's 200 feet away from where all of us live. It was perfect. And everyone wants to complain, and the softball field's right next to it. Oh, softball's got a field. Basketball's got the huge arena, yada, yada, yada. It's like, I didn't really care, man. I mean, I didn't have we played games at a high school field at my junior college. And at my junior college, we did have a nice indoor facility because Dave Snell had a travel ball team. He owned the indoor facility that was like a quarter of a mile away from our school. But Reed, we had a bunch of indoor gyms to practice in and throw pens and stuff. That was nice.
We had cages inside. that he then put like $50,000 into to pop them into like these 40-foot high cages.
And I think what's helped me too is being at the facility here, you start to realize how expensive all this stuff is and how much the coaching staff at Coppin was doing for us. I mean,
I think that's the thing that people.
I tried to never complain. Maybe I did.
No. I don't remember that. It was more like freshmen would come in and they'd have that expectation that the thing would feel really big to them, and then it stopped feeling really big, and they were like,
that's why I told guys to go where they're going to play, because that's the most important thing.
Right.
It becomes fun when you play a lot, right? And I was always, I definitely made some mistakes in my baseball career, but for the most part, there was never a time where I wasn't playing. And I think that's what made it worth it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't really know what it's like to have. Was I sat on the bench for things at times? Sure. But that's what I always try to tell people is you got to go where you're going to play, or else any situation's going to suck. I got to imagine if you're a pretty decent player, it's got to suck to sit on the bench for LSU. It just you're sitting on the bench, man. You want to play.
Yeah.
Probably get a lot of perks, and some guys want that. That's what some guys want. They want the perks. They want the big time. They want to be able to put in their Instagram bio that they're playing at this school. But I think for the average guy, you want a place to play. I think that kind of trumps everything.
I think that's probably what happens with lots of guys is that they think, well, if I go to D1, the playing thing won't be as important to me, and it is. It is.
Unless
everywhere.
I guess LSU wasn't the perfect example because that'd probably be the situation where some guys would be okay with it.
There may be some schools that have like like there's a cultural existence that you grew up with where you're willing to like give for the program in a particular way. Like I honestly think that happens at UVA with a lot of players. I think that happens at like, which is good. Like that's how those programs are able to create tight knit cultures. Yeah. But like across Division I, that's unlikely to be the case. So like guys who are like, I just want to go D1 or bust, even just give me an opportunity. Guys go with the like I'll bet on myself thing. I get it, and it's good that guys have like a more reasonable out now. But like, you just always wish people would be not more realistic, I guess, because that's kind of
open to more opportunities, I think.
Yeah. That's
I think for me, I got to play baseball for a really long time, and I have no student debt. Met a lot of cool people. That's how I got here at the facility because I met Tarr there, and etc. I mean,
and I'm great.
You're great.
Can we talk about 2022, your first year at the Mount? What it was like going to a new situation, what you liked about it, pros and cons, how it felt coming into a new program, all that stuff.
Yeah,
but pretend I didn't ask. Just like start and give the context.
Yeah. Well, like 2022 at Mount, like I had already I had made transitions like over the last 3 summers too. Like I had gone from like high school to college in 19, Georgetown to Coppin at the end of 20, and then from 21, like in 21, went to Mount. So like making transitions wasn't that weird. Going to a new program wasn't that weird. I guess it was weird to go to a new program where the whole coaching staff was new and we were trying to like start something. And that's honestly why the project was awesome and was meaningful for the last 3 years and remains meaningful because it's a staff that wants to work together to build a powerhouse in an area of the baseball world that doesn't expect there to be a powerhouse, but because they see an opportunity that there can be a powerhouse there. And I to this day, I believe even more now than I did at the time that the powerhouse is possible and that they're going to get it, but it also takes a ridiculous amount of work. Those guys have like Berman, Engage, and Coach Leone, like those guys have like just an unbelievable work ethic and the ability to go and multitask and organize things in a way that I think I could do if I didn't have 3 kids, but I probably couldn't because I can't actually think of any time in my life where I was that level of organized, like a level of capable of just like going constantly. Like for me, I get burnt out. I actually got burnt out a little bit on high school ball, just the repetitive nature of it and like that the kind of expectations and stuff like that. So like I probably in all situations have like I can go pretty hard. Actually, I felt like I could going into that situation. It was like I'm gonna crush this for like 5 years. And then I didn't say like, and then I'm going to go try to be a head coach. I said, I'm going to crush this for 5 years, get this to where I feel a sense of accomplishment, and then like we'll go back to the facility, right? And then, but like their level of work meant that I could do it for 2 well, and then 1 year kind of crappy, and that's it. Like those guys are just unbelievable. But 22, yeah. So, yeah, that was a lot of work because it was really getting like a lot of work just getting guys to believe because they had only won like 7. I mean, we played them the year before at Coppin and like we split with them at their place and we walked out feeling like we had lost the weekend because we felt like we should have rolled them.
I don't really.
Del State had beat them like 35-10 the week before. You get a bomb there. You don't even remember it. He has no recollection of this at all.
I don't really. All I remember from the mountain is like thinking like, pretty nice field.
Yeah.
Why haven't they done more?
Yeah.
Is that a
100%
appropriate thing to say? I mean, it's not like we were all that great. I just looking at it objectively. I remember maybe one or two of their players thinking like those are some pretty good players, and the rest were like kind of older guys that had probably been there for a while. And I was like,
yeah, I think it was just a situation that, for whatever reason, had kind of atrophied.
I think there was not a ton of support from the athletic department,
I
the
didn't
previous
know.
coaching
That's
staff.
not my experience.
I thought I had heard something from a couple of their guys, even before you got to Coppin, the year before when we played them.
I should caution you that every player that I've ever been around makes the statement that they don't think that the athletic administration is supporting them.
Sure.
When
you're standing on second base and the second baseman comes up and talks to you, you talk for a quick second. I don't know.
That is not. Yeah.
I think it's definitely a school that can go. There's some schools at levels that just don't have enough to ever kind of make the jumps up to make some noise. A team like the Mount, with everything I'd seen, they could have gone either direction. They could have gone up, or they could have gone way up, or they could have gone way down. There's a lot of teams that are going to kind of stay right there. They might go up a little bit, they might go down a little bit, but I feel like that team and that conference specifically, I think that's a good conference where you could make some noise. You could go on and, you see it all the time in baseball. You see these teams playing in regionals that are out of smaller conferences. You see teams playing in super regionals. You see, there's schools in Texas with Dallas Baptist or whatever. They've made some noise the last couple of years. Houston makes some noise in baseball. Yep. So, EKU, Eastern Carolina, you know what I mean? Like, there's smaller schools that are able to make impact against these teams, and I think a team like the Mount could be set up for something like that.
It's got to, before it gets into anything that remotely resembles that stratosphere of like a Dallas Baptist or a ECU, there's obviously a lot of stuff that's got to happen, but the factor that we always thought was that with the resources that are available there and just like the environment around you where like the community is super supportive and all that kind of stuff.
You're almost off on an island too, which I feel like is sometimes helpful.
It is. And it's at like a
nice area.
The opportunity is there if a coaching staff is going to like absolutely just freaking run with it. And that's what they have there is the coaching staff that's going to do that.
You have a ton of Division I schools close to you. Does that make it easier to recruit?
Yeah. Like that Maryland Central PA corridor is like pretty wide open when it comes, and so that's why the D2 teams in Pennsylvania are so good, is that they take advantage of the fact that there aren't an enormous number of D1 schools. Like there's Pitt, there's Penn State, there's St. Joe's, there's Villanova, Lehigh Lafayette. That's it. But there's like each of those has like a very, apart from Penn State and to a certain degree Pitt, the rest of those have like pretty tight niches of what they're going to actually recruit. So it's like, and it's all pretty high academic, like that kind of thing. So if you're going for a guy who's got like, you see a guy who's really freaking good and he's got like a 3.1 GPA in high school at like a Pennsylvania public school, and he's not quite at the level of Penn State, or maybe he is, but he's going to be like the dude for you and not the dude for them, you have a shot at that kid. Like, and there's the number of kids that are really good that fall in that category is like really, really high. You could get kids from New Jersey to where the talent pool is like pretty deep. We'd get kids from Virginia because Coach Leone was at William Mary and then Marymount after that. So, and then I coached in high school here. That's how I knew Frank, was from having been a high school coach and having just kind of like run in the same circles.
No.
So anyways, 22 was very challenging just because you had a bunch of guys who were like really beaten down. And we had some guys that we had brought in, and that was kind of like the first time that the transfer portal's existence people had to get over that from a cultural standpoint, that like this huge number of kids or a decent number of people might be coming into a school that were intended to like supplant some of the people who were already there. And like that coupled with the natural distrust that the players that had been there already were like they had of coaches in general led to like some things having to get worked out.
Sure.
Let's put it that way. That's like the nice way of saying that there were like some situations where like we had to navigate because guys would get better about somebody that we had brought in that was our guy, and they didn't feel like they were our guy because we inherited them and blah, 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 which is all true. It's not, none of that's unrealistic, but they had an overwrought sense of like, those guys were just not super trusting of college coaches. And they were psyched that we were there, and they wanted to trust us, but it had to be an earned thing. It took a year to earn it, and then the second year we were really good. We were really good in 23, and just didn't quite figure out our conference particularly well. And then this last year is like the weirdest year where we like were lost for half the season out of conference, which is the complete opposite year before, but like we're a buzzsaw in conference. For no, like, not at the beginning. We always, for some reason, come out to shoot in the MAC with like the hardest beginning MAC schedule of anybody. But like, we understood the conference much better the second year, and we're able to adapt to that stuff for the second year in the MAC. The first year we were in the NEC, and we were just like treading water while we were waiting to leave, and we knew Bryant was leaving too, and LIU was good that year, and Central Connecticut had like 5 dudes that all ended up going to pitch at like Oregon and Kentucky. One of them got drafted yesterday, actually. So that was the NEC. That last year was a good conference. And I think that's Coppin's finding that out now that they moved to the NEC to replace us and Bryant that moved out. So I actually have I have a theory that I've arrived at, which is connected.
What's your theory?
Which is connected to some things that I've heard from different sources, which is like that essentially what I think college baseball is going to become is, and maybe college athletics in general, if they haven't already, is like another version of the minor leagues in which there are not like eligible, like 4-year eligibility restrictions. That eligibility may be indefinite. Because
it's turning into a good enough product where
like it is a very good product.
I think that would really help some other sports too. Women's sports, maybe more specifically. I mean, college softball is the pinnacle. If you had those girls around for 8 years,
I think they would roll that.
You know what I mean?
And you'd end up with like these just absolute wagons. Like you'd have some. Teams,
Oklahoma,
like, dude,
TV rights. I mean, all that stuff.
If you didn't age out at like 22
dude,
or whatever,
wouldn't that be great? If you could like keep watching like UCLA and the College World Series, and they're just like They might cut away some of the smaller schools, but you could still find. I think there's a path there.
Well, and that's the
college
question.
Football. I mean, everyone loves college football. What if you could have? There's guys talking this year when instead of getting drafted into the NFL, they're like, I might stay at Ohio State, man. I got a big house. I'm making $10 million this next year. The boosters are taking care of me.
You are worth.
Why do I want to go to Detroit?
You are worth more money.
Well, Detroit's a good team, but why would I want to go? Bad team or good team? Why would I want to go off to a place I don't know, do rookie mini camps, have to bust my ass again? When I could just stay at Ohio State and just make the same money, more cushion, more all that stuff.
Yeah, all of that. Like
at the highest, right? Basketball. Those are the two big ones: football, basketball. But I think on the women's side, like with women's volleyball, I don't know. I mean, women's softball, especially. I mean, that's kind of the big one, right? I mean,
well, I just think the reality is that like college baseball is like on a strong upward trend in terms of viewership, while at the same time MLB is like ticking backwards. And the reason is college baseball is fast.
Sure.
Like people play the game
I think that's
hard.
why college softball is on the
100%.
So much, yeah.
100%. It's a fast game. Like it's built for excitement. Teams are really into it. There are very few emotional down moments in anything but like the crappy midweek game. right? But like, do you ever remember an emotional down moment in like a Dell State Coppin game? Like, I mean, like,
I'd watch that.
dude, those games are intense as hell. Like, all of them are, right? And like, I mean, like with Mount versus Canisius, like any of the stuff, the stuff is, even like teams at that level,
compelling.
What you're watching is really dynamic.
And it's not so, in the major leagues, there's so much money where I feel like they want to try to play every single advantage. So then it turns into like a math problem. When we go and play Dell State, and we just had $8 Chipotle.
And
you're rolling off the bus.
Yeah.
And that's not a math problem. That's a fist fight. You know what I'm saying?
They all become fist fights. All of them become fist fights. They become fist fights.
So college sports is going to turn into fist fights.
No, it's just like there's just so much more like emotional juice behind it, and the viewers pick up on that.
I think what it's going to turn into is there's so many more compelling stories, and I think that's why people really gravitate to college basketball more than the NBA, college football more than the NFL. It's just a better product because there's such a variance across the board.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and I agree. So
great having you on. Great having you on the pod.